Welcome to People First Builders, celebrating leaders in construction who build success through their people. My name is Fletcher Wimbush, your host. I'm the CEO of Discover.ai, a performance hiring software helping small and mid-sized AEC companies solve their hardest problem, people. We help people first leaders install and execute repeatable talent acquisition systems that drive business results by hiring top performers, lowering turnover, and building world-class company cultures. Stick around to the end and you can learn more about how to become a guest on our podcast and share your story with the world. Welcome to the People First Builders podcast. My name is Fletcher Wimbush. I'm your host. And today, I'm really excited to have Richard Douglas. He's the president of TruMark Homes and Communities in Southern California, a very unique place to be building homes and let alone developing communities. Richard, you've been in this business a really long time. You've been with other big companies like Ryland. I was looking through your work history there. You've probably seen it all, and you spent, I think, most of your career working here in Southern California for 20 plus years. So you've seen all sorts of different climates and situations, and also having the unique challenge of working in California with the regulatory and unique challenges that that are faced in this market: scarcity of land, high regulations, a very, very highly litigious state, both on the employee and the construction side, I imagine. So you've navigated all of those things, which makes, I think, a particularly interesting, guest here. Maybe just what did I miss in that bio? How would you describe your career so far?
Yeah, well, you did a great job. And I say sometimes, navigating, yes, every now and then the ship will take on water and you got to like bail it out. And so, so damage control is always a part of it as well as good stuff. So
Yeah.
take the good with the bad, but I would say that, at the end of the day, what we do is pretty fundamental to everywhere else in the country. We build homes and we develop land and put in streets and welcome customers to move in and enjoy their life and everything else. I would say the biggest difference in California is we just have, without sort of bragging and complaining at the same time.
Yeah.
It's, just ridiculous regulations when it comes, to be, sort of candid. And with that, though, comes opportunities, because this is all about a people first, sort of direction here. And so that means we just need to have experts that'll navigate that complete array of bureaucracies and things like that. So for me personally, it was just sort of strange if you think about it in a way, as even though I'm a builder and developer and everything else, I have a degree in political science. I chose that path, as opposed to becoming an architect, say, or an engineer or a lawyer or whatever, because my dad and grandfather were builders, and I watched as a kid my dad have to navigate the political, stream to kind of get projects approved. So I guess that leads me up to there's, in our business, there's a little bit of something for everybody, depending on how you're wired or educated or all that. And
so you knew that going in. You're like, okay, I understand I'm a Californian, and I mean, it's been crazy forever. Maybe, arguably gets worse and worse, but you were like, okay, I think I want to be a builder, but I'm going to go learn the politics side of it so that I can leverage that piece to be a more successful one, than like at a young age.
Yeah, I watched when I was, home watching, Star Trek or something. My dad was going off to planning commission, city council meetings, and getting beat up, and he'd come back with these stories. And so I learned, you can do great design and land development and placemaking and do all that sort of thing. And, to use, not to be too much of an exaggeration, held hostage by the system.
Yeah.
So if you don't know how to navigate the system, all that good design work and everything else can go out the window, which means that it's just thus now it's part of the process and part of the whole matrix of things we got to know.
So in your situation, you have to hire literally the very, very best builders and I mean, I assume as a builder, you have developers, you've got engineering partners, or do you guys do stuff like that in house, or you got construction managers, you got project managers, you got supply chain stuff, estimators and purchasing people, you've got salespeople. You're subbing out, I would assume, most of the trade work though, in that sense, right? But
Yeah.
those are still your, people that you need to rely on. So how do you make sure that those folks are the most effective and are going to be able to navigate the unique challenges that you guys deal with? What if, throughout your career, you've seen, failures, or how it shifted, or just what is your overall approach as an organization to making sure you get the best of the best?
Well, first of all, perfect synopsis of what the constituent parts are of an organization. So I start by saying that, first and foremost, it's a team sport. So if you there before we're done here, I'll use a lot of analogies on team sports or
Yeah.
military tactics, things like that, because it all comes down to cohesion between your systems and operations and things like that. But at the core of it are the people. And so I go into somewhat promotional mode for the industry and for people that are looking to thrive in a particular business in the modern day world where AI is doing one thing or another, and the construction industry can be cyclical and subject to all these things. But it's a great business because if you're an analytic, you can be an analytic person. If you're a
Mhm.
creative people person, on and on and on systems, whatever, IT. And the key is that they all have to work together as on a cohesive level.
Mm.
So the way we attract those people is just explain, hey, there's something, the way you're wired, we can put you into a
Yeah.
particular role. And we'll help you thrive in that role. At least at TruMark, we're very decentralized, so our org chart is probably no different than a lot of org charts and other builders, but but that bottom level flows up a bit more here than most places, is to top down. So, when it comes to attracting talent again, it's like saying, hey, you're going to have, you can have an impact if you want to be, we'll help you become a leader, and you're going to have a voice. And I think that's what makes us unique. And it's to me, especially for any age, but especially for a young person trying to figure out what to do in this new modern economy. The old home building, which was traditionally always been not too popular because not nearly as glorious as all these tech
Yeah.
and design things. It's a great business, especially if you're a team player.
Yeah. Well, I always thought home building was more, sexy than, many other kinds of building because, you get to put together, you build a beautiful home and you get to see that. But, but sure, maybe it's not as sexy as, going to work for Meta or Google or something like that. Right.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
at least
but
that has
really,
been the perception over the year, in this
yeah,
generation. Right.
yeah. That leads me to but it's the one business that when again it being a team sport, when you can gain is the word like fraternity. If you're in a fraternity,
Yeah.
there's sort of a spiritual organic part of that or sorority, whatever. When you're on a team that's in high sync, overcoming obstacles, whether they be political obstacles or design things, there's a feeling that you get that I'm not sure you get that a lot of other places, especially in the modern world where
Yeah.
it's become very systematized, or especially if in an organization is highly centralized, where that decision making flows from the top down. It's a lot hard and it's very functional.
Yeah.
And those are predominant, organizational philosophies, centralized things, and very,
Yeah.
up down decision making. This is still business, and I've got a lot of latitude at TruMark to kind of structure and run it very decentralized, very flat organization. So you can thrive in a team environment, and that I think that creates a completely different body chemistry and brain function than just functional work. And I'm probably not explaining right, but
Yeah.
it's
Well, so,
just
I mean,
gratifying in a lot of other places.
yeah, you're able to really create a mission around the project. I would assume, like building a new community, you have a relatively small group of people who are responsible for that, and they can see that beginning to end, and their teamwork accomplished that, right? And then they know when it got done on time, and they're getting the customer satisfaction, reviews when they're putting homeowners in, and the project's getting completed, and it was done on time and under budget, right? That's like winning the Super Bowl or something, right?
Right on. Totally right. Totally right. And you use the right a word we use all the time, which is mission. That's a
Yeah.
okay. We'll talk about. Okay, here's the mission. The mission is this. These are the objectives, and your role in this is going to be this is this and that, and someone else's role is going to be this and that. There's like any questions. In your role, is there anything we're missing?
Yeah.
Kind of empower you to kind of what will it, how do you see how do you see the mission shaping up in terms of what are we putting the right assets involved? Is there anything else we need? And we'll empower you to make comments on your area of expertise. So there's buy-in, and you can take control. And to me, it's everything. Is because
I think clarity is really important, right? Ultimately. So when somebody comes to you and they're interested in becoming a member of the team, I mean, let me just kind of go back to something you started with. Was you said it's very flat, but there's a lot of opportunities for folks to find that next step, growth step in their career within your division. Let's just say, right? Is that kind of it, that is in itself, I think, as human beings, we're always looking for growth opportunities, and
exactly.
that is engaging in itself, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we try and start out with, and it can sometimes this can kind of put people off. They don't trust the point about it. I'll ask, how are you wired? Tell me, what are you really good at? Tell me, what do you like to do? What are you really good at? Because we're all different. What you may be good at is maybe not what I'm good at, and or vice versa. But let's talk about, and sometimes people are guarded about like, oh, they don't want to show weakness. Like, no, tell me, and
Well, you're asking them what they're good at, right? I think that's
yeah.
like brag, right?
And this because it's about fit. We want to make sure that you fit in
Yeah.
and have complementary skill sets around you. And so that's the term organizations. It's a very organic thing, and so we have to invest some time to understand that. And we have assessment tools like a lot of big companies. We don't over rely on them to. They're more behavioral characteristics and things like that. So we know, and we tell them like, we want to make sure we're managing you in a way that is conducive to how you like to be managed. But but at the same time, here's the organizational structure, and here's where you fit in, and you can either be comfortable or not. So it's very open, and really the key is just to get a candidate or a person to be straightforward and honest about what their capabilities are, and trust the fact that we're trying to create an environment that you can flourish in.
Yeah, and I've been spending a lot of time hanging out with Lou Adler. He wrote a book called Hiring with Your Head lately. I'm actually auditing one of his training sessions here a little bit later today, and so it'll be interesting. His kind of famous interview question was, "Hey, what was your most significant accomplishment in XYZ role or environment or situation, or in general, just in the last 5 years of your career? What was your most significant accomplishment?" And that and I mean, I've interviewed over 15,000 people. So I've asked this question a lot of times. And, sometimes you get those people like, well, I don't want to brag. And, frankly, I mean, I try to encourage them and say, well, I don't know. Why are we here? Right. You're in an interview. Like, I would like you to brag. Like, it's better than me asking me, like, what do you suck at? Right.
Yeah.
So tell me what you're good at. And I think is a very telling interview question, because unfortunately, sometimes the answer is not very impressive, right? But for the people who are top performers, they have often very impressive stories, which, if we had more time, I'd ask you one.
Sure. Well, yeah, and of course, it depends on the role. If it's an entry level role, and well, you can be upfront and say, "Look, we're willing to train you." So a particular role is like train. We're not going to just cast you into some. We want you to succeed because obviously then the team and the organization succeeds. So if you're in need of training or augmenting things, we'll note that. And that's for one level. Obviously, if you're a senior level, you can. There's still training, and there's still orienting about it. It becomes much more, some positions you can kind of check to make sure there's skills there.
Yeah.
Then it just comes down to, it's an overused phrase, character and attitude.
Yeah.
Character, attitude, and your ability to. It goes back to that team thing. The team is very important, and skills are obviously very important. But if you have skills and you're not a fit, and you're not,
Yeah.
sports metaphor,
I mean, character and attitude typically is the deal breaker, right? So personality is not. Look, you can bring somebody in as a construction manager, and they maybe are extraordinarily detail oriented and process driven, and that's good to a degree in that role. But if they, just that's extreme, maybe they're better fit in purchasing or estimating, but they are learning the skills that they're going to need to use and translate. And now you can create that opportunity for them. That'd be like kind of I think,
yeah.
a decent example. Or maybe they're really gregarious and they're an okay builder, but they're better suited in the sales side, right?
That's exactly right. Exactly right. And but when you take all that and you kind of wrap it around, this is the mission. It's like if you the most important thing, if you embrace the mission, because the mission is everything for all these the people you see in the office here, their livelihoods depend on us accomplishing our mission.
Yeah.
The company, our business goals or anything else, it's all mission first. If you become mission first, then it's easier to say, okay, I have to make my contribution to the mission, and it's not all about me. Obviously, my success is going to come about from a team win. When people embrace that, there's that's everything. But we talk about at the core of that, there's one other element that kind of goes with that, which is, when we call it the code, which is you have to be willing to help your teammate. And the reason for that is because it's in an everyday world, we don't just all go to work and nothing else is going on in our lives. There may be, you got a sick kid or a parent or whatever. There's life that's happening while you're at work.
Yeah.
So that team orientation and knowing that you've got sort of coverage in terms of life, that allows you to thrive in a way that I think a lot of places don't have. Hey, that was me. And there's times where I was struggling in other parts of my life and raising kids and all that sort of stuff. And my team covered me, and my team knew, and they had my backs. And everybody everybody trips, falls down, and you need your teammates to pick you up, get you back on your feet. So that's so when you say you need to help each other and be a good teammate, it's because life is around the whole organization too.
Yeah, kind of this whole yin and yang sort of effect. I mean, in building, there's so many moving parts and so many players, right? Everybody has to have each other's back. One person, is not doing their job, it's a big problem. But if they need help, and you're unwilling to help, then next time it's your turn that needs help, then maybe that creates the friction and breaks the continuity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, so trust is, they're just words, but you got to live in it. So trust, when you trust your teammate and you trust the person next to you, part of that trust is, so for me as a leader, is the prime directive to my executive team is, do not let me screw up. I trust you're going to tell me if you think that I'm making a mistake, and I have to be willing to be open to that sort of commentary, because they're seeing things from a whole different perspective. And again, that's kind of mission first.
Yeah.
And so it's funny where sometimes you have to work to break down barriers. People don't actually believe that that's the case. There's times when people are like, oh, I hear that, but I bet they're not really like that. It's like, no, we really are. And
yeah. So how do you hire for that, and how do you convince other people you actually are?
Well, I think you can just a couple of different ways. Making sure that they're understanding what you're saying. And again, I think when you can relate on a personal level, it takes people letting their guard down a little bit. And, as if I'm the interviewer, say, listen, first of all, especially an executive, it's a two-way interview. You can ask me, and you got to trust me. It's like, you can ask me hard questions. You can ask me about my life, because eventually if you come here, you're going to find out. The last thing we want is to hire someone under false expectations and paint a picture just to get them here. And then they find out a month later, oh man, this was, not what I thought. That's not good for anybody. So really, turn it into a two-way interview where, I think as human beings, we can all demonstrate, what we've done well and what we learned from. And there's a starter right there. That's how we communicate. And we're open.
So as an interviewer, maybe opening up about your own challenges, your own shortcomings, to just demonstrate that you're willing to be vulnerable in a sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That gets the other person saying, "Okay, I can now maybe trust you a little more because you're not just selling me rose-colored glasses here necessarily."
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
You made you posed a question like what, your example from Mr. Adler is like, so what's a great thing you did? And that's a great question. And we do that. So give me great success. It's like, okay, then it's like, give me like, what's something you kind of really screwed up? What, and usually there's, body, posture and things like that. They don't want to, and it's like, okay, let me help you. Like, I'll tell you it's like, I'll tell you where I screwed up,
Yeah.
because it's that two-way interview. And, for me as an interviewer, and we train our people this way, is you want to replicate the environment they're going to come into as much as possible, so that when again, that first week or two is like, it's just seamless, right? So that could take maybe a little longer interview process, a little longer dialogue, and you can say, I want you to be comfortable just making that investment.
Do you do working interviews, what I call them, or like ride-alongs, or do you get people in for half a day or a day and they're out there maybe doing the job or sort of observing or in some capacity, or help them get more exposure to the environment in some way beyond the interview room kind of thing?
I think like if you're a field manager, someone in the field, our our construction leaders, they will do that, and usually they can verify, experience and things like
Yeah.
that. Sometimes we'll put them through, our project managers, we'll put them through, plan reading tests, things like that. But we'll ask them first. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, are you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you reading plans?
Yeah.
Because if you're, 4, and it's available, we'll train you. It's like, because not everyone's a 9 or 10.
Yeah.
So,
So you let them self-assess first, and by
yeah,
creating some trust and some vulnerability, hopefully then they, will be more accurate self-assessing, and maybe underestimate their own skills.
that's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, I mean, I've always thought that's helpful. And I mean, I worked with a small developer in Texas, recently, and I mean, they spent a whole day on job sites, going from the couple of job sites, doing job walks, just talking about the project, right? The ones that are existing, looking at blueprints, right? Having a back and forth, just talking as peers, right? Hey, this is what I see, and this is all that should be improved, or that's not going well, or this is really nice,
Yeah. And I think, in that context, for especially lead roles, that is, I'll use an old school analogy, which is, because I grew up in the business, which is, if you're the construction leader on that job, that's your job. You live it. You sleep with the plans, is what they used to say.
Yeah.
In the modern context, I'd say, listen, this is your chance. You're the leader here. You're the one who's got to motivate these trades to do that. I said, we'll give you support back at the company office and things like that. But, you know, I'm not the leader. My role is not to go to the field and be, you're the leader. So that's, when you can picture your part of the mission and leading that part of the mission, which is essential for overall success, that's a completely different sort of, trust, responsibility, all that sort of thing. And we want people to thrive on that.
Yeah.
And then they'll make mistakes and they need to be trained, and we need to, or they may say, we want open dialogue on whether our systems are working, because if I sit in my chair, like the question is like, are we operating well? I mean, is there anything that we're doing? What advice would you give us here? And
Our purchasing process is not aligned with our building timelines or something, or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're big on listening to our people in the field. Same as with our salespeople. So you have a different, especially like in a world like today, we call it, kind of a military analogy, like fingertip feels. Like, if you're trying to figure out where the enemy is or where the opportunities are, and you're out kind of probing around, doing recon and everything else, for our salespeople, I need fingertip feel. What's really happening out there? I don't want to read some report from a big think tank.
But like, what are the potential buyers saying about the product, or
Yeah, they're on the front lines every day. So
Yeah.
emphasize, yes, you got to sell and you got to do these fundamental things, right? But you're constantly assessing because what you may give us a nugget that allows us to buy the next piece of land because you're seeing something nobody else is seeing. So
Yeah.
that's
Everybody keeps asking for a bigger backyard or something. I don't know. I mean, that's a little complaint about modern homes, right? But
right.
I don't know. Maybe people don't care about backyards. That's why they're built this way. But no.
Trusting those people, trusting your players on the front lines,
Yeah.
because and that's the responsibility flows two different ways. Obviously they have a responsibility to report accurate and honest things back. We have a responsibility to give them the tools or position them for success. And that's our mindset.
Yeah, that's awesome. Real quick, what about hiring trades? How do you guys approach finding, selecting, and deciding which ones to work with and which ones not to?
Well, it's a great question. The especially in the world we live in today, as you and I talk here and speak, mix, crosswinds everywhere. We thought, every builder in America has been trying to cut their costs, because the market's been a little tougher. So everyone's got initiative. Every builder's going to their trades and asking for percentages off and things like that. Against what, now we have a backdrop of international things on oil and prices and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, at TruMark, we're still very much in a partner level, and we've been very open about, here's our business, here's the challenges. We're going to do everything we can. So our offering is, we're going to do everything we can to maintain production. That may mean that our margins aren't as great on the houses we're building because we got some, we can't let them sit there. Yeah. So, we're going to have this volume of business. And if you can depend on us, then
we keep you busy.
We're going to need you to kind of give us, some consideration cost wise. So we can keep going. We can all keep our doors in business. So that's kind of mutual survival. So, but it's very, we're still very relationship oriented. Because at the end of the day, again, that's just another people business. And, we're not hardcore demanding, dollars, I hope we never are.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, how can folks get a hold of you guys? What's the best way to reach you or TruMark if you're interested in partnering with you in some way or buying one of your homes?
So we have, you can always just look up, go online, TruMark Homes. We have divisions in Northern California, Southern California, Central California, and the Central Coast, and in Colorado. We just bought another builder, merged another builder that's in Washington. So you can navigate around. If you want to buy a house, there's that way. There should be links in all those main websites if you're obviously looking for a job. We have in-house recruiting and in-house HR. So there's job postings and things like that. And there should be websites for, each particular geography, Southern California, Northern California, et cetera.
Nice. Job portals for each one of those.
Yeah. So the good old fashioned way, just you can do it. If marketing people are doing it, our name should be near the top there. Just if you want to buy a house, we have all the modern visuals and stuff like that. Yeah. So hopefully we're competitive. I think
awesome. We'll leave all that in the show notes. Richard, thank you for being on today.
Hey, it was a pleasure. Really a pleasure. Fun to be with you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for listening to our People First Builders podcast. If you're a successful construction CEO and would like to tell your story on this program, please visit our podcast homepage, FletcherWimbush.com/peoplefirstbuilders, or check it out in the notes below. If you got something out of this interview and would like to share the episode on socials, we always appreciate that. Just take a quick screenshot with your phone, text it to a friend, or post it to the socials. If you know someone who might be a great guest, tag them on social and let them know. And don't forget, #PeopleFirstBuilders. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We're regularly putting out new content. To make sure that you don't miss out on any episodes, go ahead and hit subscribe on your favorite podcast channel. Your thumbs up and ratings and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, FletcherWimbush.com, or follow me on LinkedIn Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.